So here we are at Clearview Air Park in Westminster, Maryland with, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Patrick Murphy. I'm the guy who was incredibly fortunate enough to have Josh Orchard, my friend, build or restore a quarter scale model of my full scale 1957 Piper Tripacer.
So tell me about your Tripacer. Tell me about your interest and how you came into how you came to own the Tripacer.
Okay, about a year ago, a buddy of mine called me up and asked me if I was interested in buying a Luscombe with him, and I said, well, yeah. And so I'd gone ahead and got the financing in place for that. He was buying it from a neighbor, but the neighbor wasn't going to allow him to keep it on the neighbor's property. So he kind of got ticked off about that and said, no, I don't want it now. So I had the financing in place, and then the same buddy of mine called me up one day and said, hey, there's this Tripacer down in Westminster you should go look at. And okay, so came down here. It had sat for maybe 3 years without flying. In that time, it had new covering put on the wings. It's been sitting outside, so the paint is rough, but it's a very solid airplane. It's a good airplane, and it's been one of my life goals to own an airplane and finish my pilot's license, which I am still working on because COVID has put a damper on me flying in a little tiny cockpit with my instructor for now, but we're going to be getting back to it soon. So anyway, the Tripacer was built in 1957. It's a 4-place airplane, 150 horsepower, Lycoming 0320 engine. It is probably, in my opinion, probably the best value in general aviation as far as buying an airplane goes. They are very affordable, and it's a good amount of airplane for the price you pay. It's a great flying airplane, has decent range, can cruise about 130 to 135 knots. It's a very fun airplane to fly. And
so we were out at my flying field this morning, and you got a chance to fly the quarter scale version that I did for you. And as a full scale pilot and RC pilot, can you note any differences between the two airplanes and how they fly or how they handle, similarities?
Start with the similarities. One thing the Pacers and Tripacers are known for is they have the glide ratio of a brick, so they will drop a lot of altitude quickly. Now the model, it doesn't have the same wing loading. It has a lighter wing loading. But I still noticed when you were bringing it in to land it, that it will bleed off altitude really quickly.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
Especially with those flaps down.
Yes, yes. Difference? Well, the full-size one from the factory had a mechanical linkage between the ailerons and the rudders, and mine still has that connected. A lot of people disconnect it, but it's a spring system, so you still have independent aileron and rudder control, but yet you can turn with either your rudder pedals or the ailerons because they are linked. In the turns, the model like you had told me about, once it's in a turn, the model wants to stay in a turn. So you have to really counter, and you have to think ahead when you're rolling out of the turn with this model, because if you try to roll out where you want it to go, about when you want it to be going there, you will overshoot that turn. So this, you have to think ahead of it a little bit more than you do this one. It's not a huge difference in terms of when you roll out of the turn in this one. I think just because you're in the airplane, it's a little bit more natural. than it is when you're kind of flying a plane from the ground view. But this thing was very docile. I really liked the way it flew, and you did such a beautiful job on it. I'm still just, I don't know what to say. But yeah, it's a nice flying model. And being quarter scale, you know, the bigger the model, the better it flies, and that holds true.
Yeah, generally speaking.
Generally speaking. But yeah, this definitely has a greater power to weight ratio.
Yeah.
This one will not climb like this one does. But yeah, it's you can see some similarities in the air. If you were just casually looking at this, you would think it was a full-size Tripacer. It captures the look perfectly. I mean, it looks exactly like a Tripacer does in the air.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that we had talked about a number of times, just looking at the lines, and we had met up a while ago noting some differences in panels, flat versus round, and some bulges and different things. But for, you know, those little things that if you didn't get to know the airplane up close and personal, you would really never know.
Right, and actually, you know, when we were here looking at it, like right this wide point right here, I'd never even noticed that before.
Yeah, and just behind the door.
On the other side.
Yeah.
It's not perfectly symmetrical.
Yeah,
but,
there's also a little hump on the roof line that's on the full scale. Can't really see it.
Yeah, more like.
Yeah,
right
so
there, and the way
there's more of a peaked hump rather than it being flat straight across the wings that you see on the model. So those are really the only differences, and that does make a difference in terms of like passenger headroom. But other than that, you know, those are the major differences. But in terms of the model, how often are you apt to fly the model now that you've flown it and that you're grounded on this airplane for the time being?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I want to go fly it, but I don't want to fly it because I don't want to crash it. I would feel like such a jerk.
No.
So like my plan right now, and my wife doesn't really know this yet or not, is I want this thing to hang from our living room ceiling when I'm not using it. I want it to be right there in the center of the living room. We have a vaulted ceiling. It's not all that high, but I think it's high enough to hang that thing up there so when you come into the house, boom, there it is.
Well, how neat would that be?
I think it would be neat. See, your talents, you have such great talent in building these things. You have way more patience than I would ever have to do this. And you actually finish projects.
Well, finishing projects is one thing, but one thing I definitely want you to take away from this is I want you to enjoy the project. Part of the reason that I didn't go full out on all the details that I had originally thought was because I didn't want you to have to worry about maintaining it. I didn't want you to have to worry about, you know, things getting messed up or destroyed, and that it was easy enough for you to maintain and small enough projects for you to finish should you have to. But with all that being said, I do hope that you enjoy it for years to come. I can't wait for you to bring it out to Flight Fest or any other event, and so that other people can enjoy it, and that you have your own wonderful conversation piece to share aviation history with.
And talk about my friend who did this for me.
But you know, we have these friendships, and that's really what I want people to take away from this. We had our partners on this that I again want to thank: Dubro, Master Air Screw, and Horizon Hobby, who helped make the build possible. And it's friendships like these that this hobby fosters all the time. So until next time, I want you guys to keep working on your flying works of art and perhaps consider making some artwork for a friend.